Hi, it's Carter, the president of Constitutional Rights PAC, standing here in front of the York Alliance Church, their student center, on Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday. This is, let me repeat that, Easter Sunday. This is not, as President Toxic Joe Biden declared, the day of national transgender perversion, or diversity, as he said, visibility, let me get it right. It's Easter Sunday. These people in there worshiping right now, they're not worshiping drag queens, okay? They're not bowing down and genuflecting to cross-dressers and self-mutilators. They're not holding ceremonies to slice off their tiny daughters' breasts and cut off their little son's testicles. None of that, despite the wishes of toxic Joe Biden. Am I making an overstatement? No. Let me tell you something. What Joe Biden declared the day before yesterday, designating Easter Sunday, knowingly designating Easter Sunday a national day of transgender visibility, was beyond the pale of anything we have ever seen in our country's history, ever. Fortunately, there is something we have seen that this monster statement may presage, okay? In the past, certain presidential candidates and presidents have said things that caused them to lose the elections. Single phrases. 1896, James G. Blaine got defeated. He was ahead in the polls until he started screeching about Romanism and rebellion. It turned the election. He had been ahead and he lost to Grover Cleveland. We saw it with George H.W. Bush when he uttered the phrase, "Read my lips, no new taxes," which became the rallying cry to defeat him in the ensuing election. Okay? Jimmy Carter with this absurd speech in July of '77, his moral equivalent of war. Those were his words. It was shortened, unfortunately, for him to meow, because it had been such a pusillanimous speech, and everywhere he went after that, until Reagan took him out and used that phrase, used meow, to help defeat him. Everywhere he went, people held up signs and yelled it out. We saw it with Gerald Ford when he declared in debate, Poland is not communist. Precipitated his defeat. So what we have to do, and the reason I'm going into all this, is toxic Joe Biden has now uttered the phrase that we should throw in his face everywhere he goes. I'm going to tell you right now, as president of the Constitutional Rights PAC, I'm going to urge our 200,000 members that whenever Biden holds one of his pathetic rallies, which usually about 10 or 15 people show up and yell, "Easter Sunday. Easter Sunday." Folks, if you happen to see him walking down the street near you, yell Easter Sunday, just to show him that we don't celebrate on Easter Sunday, the holiest day of the Christian religion, perversity, a national day of transgender perversity, the way he dictated. Let me make two more points about it, and because they're very telling. The first is, don't think that he muttered this accidentally, okay? This was a declaration, a presidential proclamation, which means that scores of White House aides went over every word of it, which further means that Joe Biden's White House is filled with people who absolutely disdain Christianity, filled with them. Not one stood up and said, "Sir, you're desecrating Easter Sunday. Sir, this is blasphemous." Not one. That's what he has put in the White House. He has turned our White House into a den of iniquity. a den of iniquity. I'm sure, frankly, if he'd shown it to his cabinet, and he may have, they would have stood and applauded, because they are the most irreligious bunch that has ever occupied the White House. That's where we are today. That's where we are today in America. And that's not American. And that brings me to my final point. Joe Biden loves to spout off about democracy, democracy. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. You remember his September 1st, 2022 speech, where he waved his hands in the air and shouted at the American people that anybody who disagreed with him was an enemy of the state, a domestic terrorist against democracy, democracy. Well, how about this for democracy, Mr. President, Toxic Joe? 63% of the American people self-identify as Christians. That's 210 million people. In a democracy, their will would sway the day, and Easter Sunday would be Easter Sunday, not a national transgender day of perversion. Okay? So I urge you, go out. If you find out there's a rally near you where he's going to attend, go out and shout, Easter Sunday, Easter Sunday. We need to throw this in this man's face everywhere he goes, every minute of the day, until we finally chase him from the Oval Office. Folks, it's that serious. Let's do this thing.